Hey, before we get started, go ahead and hit like or subscribe if you're tuning in somewhere cozy or maybe just a little uneasy. Where are you listening right now? What time has led you here, to this quiet moment with me? Now, let me take you somewhere that might make you double-check your own back door tonight. It's a little past midnight. Rain taps a steady rhythm on the side window next to you. A soft, restless sound that fills the silence and keeps you alert. You're in a small rental house on the outskirts of town, the kind where streetlights peter out, and the neighbors' lights are mere flickers in your peripheral vision. The rain smells like wet earth and old wood, earthy and slightly sharp in the cool air. You can hear the occasional creak from the old floorboards below, like this house is breathing, ever so slightly. You've just come from the bathroom, the warmth of the hot shower still clinging to your skin, and you're moving down the narrow hallway toward your bedroom now. But as you step past the bathroom door, you freeze. There's a sound, a quiet footstep, like a soft rub of a shoe on the wooden floor. Only, it's not your own. The faintest scrape, too deliberate to be the house settling or the rain outdoors. You strain to listen, breath catching at the almost imperceptible pattern. One step, pause, another step, slow, careful. Your eyes search the half-lit corridor, a flicker of light from the bathroom's faint nightlight, casting long, thin shadows toward the living room. You blink, convince yourself that with the rain, the old pipes, the wind, you might have imagined it. Still, that footstep echoes again, just beyond the bathroom door, somewhere you took for private a moment ago. You can almost feel the shift in the air, colder now, dampness thickening like a silent warning. Your heart tries to slow down, but the gloom crowds in. The hallway seems narrower, the temperature colder against your skin where the dampness seeps in. You creep forward, hands sliding along the wall, fingers brushing the chipped paint, grounding you in something familiar. Another step outside the bathroom, maybe two. You catch a brief glimpse, a shadow stirring near the back door, which you thought you locked an hour ago. The latch clicks faintly, a tiny sound swallowed fast by the rain's growing murmur. You reach the back door and stop, fingertips poised over the handle. Outside, the porch light swings slightly in the wind, casting a dull circle onto the slick wooden boards. The rain has picked up, tapping now in heavier bursts, but the footsteps have stopped. Silence reclines instantly, as though they've melted into the wet night. You pull out your phone. No signal. At least, not enough to dial the emergency number. You double-check the locks. The deadbolt, secure. The chain, intact. You lean close to the door and press your ear against the cold wood. Nothing but dripping water and the sigh of the wind through the trees. You consider opening, but the tight knot in your gut tells you otherwise. That rain-heavy darkness feels endless, wrapping around the house like a blanket that refuses to warm you. You move back inside slowly, closing and locking the door behind you with more force this time, the bolts metal heavy under your hand. In the quiet that follows, you trace your steps back past the bathroom door, heart still pounding, listening for any hint of a sound you now hope never returns. There's comfort in the light hum of the fridge and the muted glow from the hallway lamp, but it feels fragile, a thin thread keeping the night's edge at bay. You wonder as you settle back near the window, watching the water trail down the glass. How much of what we hear in the dark is really there? And how much is the space between our fears and waking shadows stretching just beyond sight? And when footsteps break the stillness of a night like this, how do you decide what's real and what's waiting to cross that bathroom door? Before we dive in, take a moment. If you haven't yet, hit that like or subscribe button. Where are you listening from? And what time is it where you are? There's something about the middle of the night, the hours when most of the world is hushed, that makes even the smallest sound sharper. Tonight, you're about to experience one of those moments where every detail hangs heavy in the quiet. It's 3:17 a.m. The rain taps steadily against the porch roof outside, a restless drizzle that seems almost constant enough to blur the night into a low drone. You've been awake for a little while, the house around you kept dim by the soft glow of the hallway lamp, everything quiet except for that rain. The air feels cool, damp, thick with the faint scent of wet wood and earth soaking up the storm. You notice it as you lie awake, the smell crawling into your senses, steady and oddly soothing, yet unsettling at the same time. You get up slowly, footsteps muffled on the threadbare carpet as you make your way toward the front door. Something's pulled your attention there, a lingering unease that digs at the back of your mind. When you reach the door, your fingers find the cold metal of the doorknob, turning it only to confirm it's locked tight. You slide the chain across the catch with a subtle click, your breath shallow but steady. The dim hallway light catches the little peephole in the door's center, a round, glass eye looking out into the dark. Curiosity pulls you close. You press your eye gently against the peephole, the grainy glass cool on your skin. Outside, the rain blurs the porch light, turning sharp edges into ghostly smudges. At first, you see only the slick wood beneath the light and the quiet, empty street beyond. But then, something shifts in the shadows. A silhouette, small and still, maybe at the edge of the porch. Your heart flutters. You pull back and glance through the peephole again quickly. The figure is gone. You stand there for a moment, listening. The rain's sound has deepened, a soft percussion on the roof and sidewalk, masking other noises. But then, past the steady patter, you hear it. A very faint scrape near the side of the house, close to the back door. Your head turns instinctively. You blink, and the hallway light feels brighter in contrast to the dark stillness just outside those doors and windows. You reach for your phone on the nearby table, no bars showing on the screen. You try again, breathing carefully not to startle the quiet. You scroll to the emergency number, then pause. What exactly are you calling about when everything might just be your imagination? You remind yourself the locks are secure, the chain is on, but the thought of footsteps so near stirs a tangible chill inside your ribs. Swallowing that nervous knot, you decide to check the back door through the peephole again. The reflection of your eye wavers in the glass as you press your face close to the cold wood. The porch light's fuzziness fills the view, and for a fraction of a second, the shadow appears again, just on the edge. Then nothing. You step back and flick the hallway lights off, letting the familiar amber glow from the street lamp seep in through the window instead. The room seems larger in that low light, but also emptier and quieter except for that rain, ever present. Everything you're sensing is tethered to this one question. In a night filled with sounds and shadows, how do you know what is safety, and what is the unsettled thing waiting just beyond your sight? If you're listening in on a rainy night like this, maybe hit like or subscribe before we start, especially if the silence around you feels thick and the shadows gather close outside your window. Where are you sitting? What time has pulled you here? It's 2:13 a.m., and the rain taps a steady rhythm against the side window next to you, a soft drumming interwoven with distant rolls of thunder, far enough away to remind you the night is alive but not yet wild. You're in the narrow hallway of a small rental house, somewhere quiet, the kind of place where every creak and whisper seems magnified in the dark. The air smells faintly of damp wood and something faintly metallic, like rain catching on old pipes. Your skin prickles, a cool shiver riding down your neck as you stand still, listening. The steady tap of rain blends with a deeper silence, a heavy hush that fills every corner, pressing close. Then you hear it, a whispered voice, barely more than a breath, echoing softly down the hall. The sound is delicate, fragmented, like someone murmuring just beyond earshot, their words hiding in the spaces between drops of rain. You freeze, heart tightening, and your breath slow, careful not to break the fragile quiet. The voice comes again, a murmur from the darkness past the bathroom door, low and indistinct. Your legs move before your mind agrees, stepping quietly toward the source. The floorboards creak softly beneath your careful tread, the slight groan sounding far too loud in the stillness. You reach the bathroom, its door closed, the soft glow from inside flickering faintly under the gap at the bottom. You press your ear against the cool wood, nothing but hollow silence and the tap-tap of the rain outside. You pull back and glance down the hallway. Shadows stretch like fingers along the walls, reaching slowly toward you. Your hand drifts to the phone in your pocket. The screen lights up, 2:14 a.m., but the signal is weak. Screen blinking, no service. You swipe, hesitating, thumb hovering over emergency dial before you pull it back. Calling won't bring anyone fast enough, and you don't like that feeling of reaching out into empty air. You decide to check the back door, the one you locked earlier, and double-check before bed. Your fingers skim the cool brass of the handle, tracing the latch and deadbolt, the lock secure and unyielding. Outside, the porch light flickers faintly, a pale guardian against the rain's curtain. The steps creak softly under your toes as you edge toward the door, pausing to peer through the peephole. Darkness swallows the view, rain blurring everything beyond the glass. Behind you, the muted voice seems to ripple again, so low now it could be wind whistling through gaps, or a whispered breath fading into the night. Your breath catches. For a moment, the house feels alive with secrets just beyond your grasp. You close the door, fingers tightening on the latch, heart steadying as the rain drums on. You pause, hands resting lightly on the frame, feeling the cool pulse of the night seep into your skin. The voice is gone, but the silence that follows seems heavier, filled with something waiting beneath the ordinary sounds of water and wood. In houses like this, late at night, surrounded by rain and shadow, how do you tell when a whisper is just the wind, and when it's something else entirely? If you're settling into a rainy night with me, maybe tap like or subscribe before you get drawn in, especially if it's quiet where you are, and the shadows outside your window feel a little thicker than usual. Where are you listening from? What hour has led you here? It's just past 1:33 a.m., and rain softly taps against the wooden siding outside this small rental home, perched on the edge of a sleepy town. The air is cool, the kind of damp chill that clings softly to your skin, carrying the faint scent of wet earth and old pine. You're in the living room, the soft glow of a single lamp casting golden pools on furniture dampened slightly by humidity. The clock ticks steadily, a subtle metronome beneath the persistent rhythm of rain falling on the porch. Somewhere distant, an owl calls out, a lonely sound that echoes faintly through the thick night. Suddenly, the quiet is broken by the sharp, familiar ring of the doorbell. It cuts through the patter of rain like a sudden knock on glass. Your breath catches as you glance at the clock. It reads 1:34 a.m. The sound plays again, just once more. A second ring, quick and clear. Enough time between the two to wonder if someone is testing the door, or if the first was accidental. You hesitate, the chill crawling up your spine as you move slowly to your feet. The floor creaks softly beneath your steps as you approach the front door. Faintly, the smell of wet wood and rain seeps in from beneath, mixing with the warmer scent of the room. You reach out, hand pausing just above the cold metal of the door handle. Your pulse thuds in your ears as you check the chain and the deadbolt again, fingers finding familiar security in the cool metal. Locked tight, you press your eye to the peephole, already prepared for blurred distortion from glass and rain. Outside, the porch light cuts through the wet darkness, but the porch itself is empty. No silhouette, no one's shadow stretching toward you. You strain your ears over the patter of rain and the hum of the heater. Not a sound stirs beyond the house except the steady drop of water ticking from the eaves. You step back into the room, locking the door again with deliberate care. Outside, the night drinks the rain, washing away footsteps, settling the porch into silence once more. Your heart still pulses unevenly as you glance back toward the window, the rain rustling the leaves, shrouding the world beyond in gray blur. The quiet hum is both comforting and hollow. You wonder how many times in these hours, when the world seems asleep, something simple, a ring, a step, a breath, can open a door you don't want to cross. And when the echoes fade, what is it in the silence that stays with you? If you're tuning in on a rainy night like this, maybe hit like or subscribe before the quiet pulls you in too deep. Where are you right now? And what time has carried you here to this slow, soft moment? It's just past 1:07 a.m. and rain taps gently against the window beside you. A steady, soothing rhythm that carries you into this small rental house on the edge of a quiet town. The air is cool and thick, with the scent of wet wood and earth, a faint musk of dampness drifting in from outside. You've just unlocked the door, stepping inside from the porch, the faint squelch of soaked shoes on the threshold mixing with the creak of old hinges. The sudden warmth from inside wraps around you, but there's a chill lingering under your skin, a subtle shift, like a breath held too long. The faint scent of mildew and aged wood greets you with familiarity, but it also unsettles, pulling at something just beyond explanation. Your fingers brush the light switch, the yellow glow flickering weakly from the overhead bulb, casting uncertain shadows that tremble against the walls. You take a slow breath and step deeper into the living room, eyes adjusting to the dim light. It's sparse here, worn furniture pushed against the walls, a threadbare rug damp in one corner, and the faint impression of footsteps in the dust that hasn't had time to settle completely. You pause, catching the soft drip of water somewhere in the back, maybe from a leaking pipe, or the rain sneaking in beneath the door. The sound echoes faintly in the stillness, a subtle rhythm that blends with the ticking of the old clock on the wall, its steady pulse marking the late hour. The room is quiet beyond that, save for the faint hum of the heater, struggling to hold the chill at bay. Curiosity nudges you toward the kitchen, where the smell of stale air and damp plaster grows stronger. Your hand brushes the cabinet door, cold to the touch. Behind it, a small puddle has formed near the baseboard, the faint smell of mildew sharper here, mixing uneasily with the clean, metallic scent of a water heater humming in the corner. You move toward the window, peering out into the rain-darkened yard. The porch light flickers, casting long, shaky shadows across the wet wood floor. You notice the back door security latch is loose, enough to flick with a light push, but you could have sworn you locked it earlier. Your heart quickens. You reach out, pressing your palm to the cool door frame, fingertips grazing the rough paint chipped by years of weather. The faintest tap, a soft knock, maybe, breaks the rhythm of the rain. You freeze, listening. Silence. You glance down at your phone. 1:09 a.m. No messages. No calls. Just the occasional drip from the leaky faucet and the rain's steady song. You pull the latch tighter, locking the door with slow care, feeling the weight of that simple act settle over you. The house sighs softly, the quiet pressing in, filling the spaces between raindrops. Sometimes, you wonder how long a space holds the marks of those who came before, shadows flickering just beneath the surface of the familiar. And when the rain washes outside, erasing footprints and stains, what traces remain in the quiet corners you can't see? You might want to hit like or subscribe first, especially if you're listening somewhere quiet and the rain is steady outside your window. Maybe it's late, something about this hour that pulls you in. Right now, it's 2:38 a.m., and you're standing just inside the doorway of a rental house you barely know. Outside, the rain falls in sheets, wet and relentless, pressing cold and damp against the doorframe. The scent of earth and wet wood drifts in on the air, clinging to your skin with that sharp edge of night and storm. Your hand brushes the threadbare welcome mat at your feet. It feels soaked through, cold and rough, where it's pressed flat against the wood. Something catches your eye just beneath the rolled edge. Something small and metallic glinting against the dark fibers. You kneel slowly, muscles tight as the air cools around you, and pull back the mat. There, tucked just so, lies an old brass key. Tarnished, worn, the kind of key you half expect to open a forgotten lock rather than the modern deadbolt you clicked just minutes ago. You take it in your palm, the metal cool and oddly heavy, hefting that small weight in your hand as rain thrums softly on the porch roof. The quiet house around you seems to lean in, listening. You stand, careful not to drip water through the threshold, and look back toward the door. You test the lock again, secure as it was before. Your fingers trace the familiar cold metal bolts. Yet the presence of that key beneath your mat twists something in your gut, a knot of uncertainty you can't quite unravel. Step by slow step, you move toward the side window, fingers brushing condensation as you peer out into the gray wash of rain-darkened yard. The porch light flickers low, throwing equivocating shadows along the soaked boards where muddy footprints linger faintly in the past. The damp air tastes of moss and forgotten corners. No one else stirs, no footsteps resound beneath the steady rhythms of water falling. You reach back down, finger tracing the key's worn grooves, and wonder how many times someone's left it here, hidden, forgotten, waiting. You think of stories, rental houses with secrets tucked in every lock and latch, back doors swinging quietly after midnight, the faint drip of water where no one should be. You pull your jacket tighter, chills sprinting down your spine as the wind shifts outside, rattling the side door's loose latch with soft, uneven taps. Your phone buzzes faintly in your pocket, screen lighting to 2:40 a.m., but no messages. No missed calls, just the rain, steady and insistent. You glance once more at the mat, and beyond it the shadowed paths that twist away from sight. When you carry a key you didn't expect to find, the weight isn't just in metal or rust, it's in the questions it asks. Who hid it and why? What doors does it still unlock, and which ones were meant to stay closed? And as rain washes the footprints clean from the porch, how long will that secret wait beneath the damp fibers, whispering softly in a tongue only the night understands? If you're settling in on a rainy night like this, maybe hit like or subscribe before the quiet pulls you under, especially if the darkness around you feels thick and the air is heavy with moisture. Where are you? And what hour has brought you here? It's 1:29 a.m., the kind of time when the world's edges soften into shadow and the rain whispers steadily against the window beside you. The glass is cold under your fingers, slick with beads of water that gather and race uneven trails down the pane. You lean in close, breath fogging the surface for a brief moment before the chill creeps back in, an invisible breath pressed against the glass from the outside. The air smells sharp, a mix of wet earth and something older, like damp wood forgotten beneath the rain. You pull back slightly, heart settling into a slow rhythm as your eyes follow the erratic patterns of water racing downward. The house holds its quiet breath, the only other sound a faint creak far away, maybe the settling of old floorboards or the wind testing the loose shingle on the roof. Outside, the rain falls steadily, muffling the world beyond, pulling sounds into softened shadows. A sudden tap breaks the steady rhythm. A soft, deliberate knock at the side door, just beyond your view. It's quick, 2 small raps, almost like a heartbeat against the wood. You pause, skin prickling where cold air creeps around the edges of the cracked window. The knock comes again, just as faint and measured. Your breath catches. This isn't a usual sound, the kind of hesitant tapping you might mistake for wind, or the creak of a branch shifting, has intention woven through it. You rise slowly, feet quiet on the cool floor as you move toward the door, fingers brushing over the worn surface, tracing the cool metal of the handle. You check the lock first, the deadbolt solid, the chain secure. Still, the weight of unease settles in your chest. You lean closer, pressing your ear to the door, listening hard beneath the rain's endless tap. Nothing but silence, thick and almost too deep, like the world is holding its breath too. Turning away, you glance through the small peephole set just above the handle. The glass distorts the dark beyond, but for a fleeting second you think you see a shadow, a shape pressed just at the edge. Then it's gone, swallowed entirely by rain and night. You step back, the cold breath on the window pane still lingering in your mind like a secret left unspoken. The rain's steady song fills the space, but your thoughts drift, tangled between the familiar and the unknown. How often does something unseen leave its quiet mark, brushing so close we almost feel its breath? And if the night remembers what we cannot, who watches through the glass when we are not looking? If you're here with the rain outside and the quiet pressing close, maybe tap like or subscribe before the night deepens around you. Where are you listening? What hour has drawn you into this moment? It's 2:47 a.m., and the steady rhythm of rain beats softly against the side window, a soft percussion accompanying the stillness of this small rental house on the edge of nowhere. The scent of damp earth rises faintly through the cracked window, mingling with something older, worn wood and faint traces of forgotten time. You stand at the foot of the stairs, looking upward toward a door you hadn't noticed before, or maybe hadn't paid attention to until this night. It's set into the narrow hallway wall, painted the same dull white as the surrounding plaster, but heavier, more formidable somehow. The kind of door that feels like it holds back more than just an attic or a closet. A locked door. Your fingers brush against the chipped paint near the handle, rough and cool in the still moist air. There's a faint smell here too, mustiness edged with a metallic sharpness, like old hinges never quite oiled right. You reach for the knob, but the catch holds firm, unyielding to your touch. Lock sets tight, the simple mechanism cold beneath your fingertips. A creak echoes from above, soft at first, like a house settling, but then another, closer, an uneven groan from the floorboards near that locked room. Your breath catches. The rain softens outside, as if holding its breath too, the usual background noise thinning to silence. It's as though the house itself waits, watching, listening. You step back and listen. The distant roll of thunder hums faintly beyond the hills, the occasional drip of water seeping through the eaves. Nothing moves but shadows, shifting just at the edge of your vision. The locked door remains quiet, yet the air around it seems to hum, charged with something unspoken. You check your phone. 2:48 a.m. No missed calls, no messages, just the glow of the screen and a weak signal. You think about calling for help, but the remoteness of this place means it could be minutes before anyone answers. And who would believe the unease tied to a door that refuses to open? The hallway light flickers, casting jerky shadows along the walls. You gaze once more. This locked room is a boundary, a thinned veil between the known and the possible, the safe and something just beyond. Your fingers itch to turn the knob, to push past the lock and see what waits inside. But the mystery lingers. The house holds its secrets tight tonight. The rain gathers strength again, drumming insistently on the roof. as if to remind you that some doors aren't meant to be opened. And when the silence waits behind a locked door, how do you decide whether to listen or to leave the unknown unspoken? If you're here on a rainy night like this, maybe hit like or subscribe before the quiet pulls you deeper in. Where are you listening from? What hour is slipping by around you? It's 2:36 a.m. The rain tapping steadily against the side window, a soft, persistent rhythm like a heartbeat pressed against glass. The smell is sharp, wet earth mixed with the faint musk of old wood, a dampness that clings quietly to the air and settles on your skin. You feel it there, a slight chill creeping just beneath your warmth. You stand near the window, watching the dark shapes outside blur under the veil of rain. The porch light flickers weakly, casting trembling shadows across soaking boards, while the garden beyond gives nothing away, only a saturation of muted shapes and glistening leaves. The street beyond is empty, no passing headlights, no distant footfalls, just the steady drizzle pressed into soft silence. Suddenly, a deep rumble rolls low in the distance, almost too faint to hear at first. Then another, a little closer, drawing near like some slow beast, making its way across the hills. The thunder murmurs beneath the rain, a growl that vibrates underfoot and hums gently through the chilled air. It's both warning and lullaby, a tremor in the quiet that balances on the edge of calm and something waiting. You step back from the window, fingers brushing the cold frame as your eyes flicker toward the hallway. The house feels heavier with the sound, each creak and sigh of settling wood magnified in the thick atmosphere. You move slowly down the hall, footsteps soft against the weathered floorboards, heart steady but alert. The wallpaper peels faintly near the corners, edges curling like fragile skin beneath the dampness pressing in from outside. Your hand finds the back door, locked hours ago, but tonight it feels different, as if the locks might be lighter or the air heavier where they meet the wood. You run fingers along the cold metal of the deadbolt, lift and lower the chain, both secure, just as they should be. Still, the faintest scrape, just steps beyond the porch, grazes the edge of your hearing, a soft shuffle, quickly swallowed by the rain's persistent drum. You pause, breath steady, eyes narrowing through the dim light as your gaze drifts toward the backyard. Shadows pool and shift under the scant glow of the porch lamp, and the rain's ripple distorts what little you can see. The air tastes faintly metallic, a sharpness that lingers on the tongue. Another low rumble of thunder vibrates through the night. Closer now, rolling under the thin veil of rain. Your phone buzzes faintly in your pocket. 2:37 a.m., a muted glow amid the dark. No signal, no messages. You slide it out, screen lighting the space with a cold blue, fingers hovering over the emergency number before pulling back. Who do you call when the road is empty, neighbors silent, and the weight of night feels endless? The rain creeps against the window pane once more, soft and relentless, washing the world outside into a blur. You breathe it in, the cold and damp threading through your body as the distant thunder grows just a little louder. And you wonder how much of the silence is just waiting and how much is listening back. If you haven't already, tap like or subscribe, especially if you're somewhere where the rain is steady, the night deep, and shadows press close against the windows. Where are you sitting? What hour has delivered you here, into this quiet? It's just past 3:02 a.m., and the rain taps a measured rhythm against the side window, cool and unrelenting. The air carries a dampness tinged with the scent of wet wood and earth, a chill you can feel sliding down your neck as you trace the edges of the glass with your fingertips. You step deeper into this rental house, the one that's become unfamiliar even to you. The soft creak of floorboards beneath your feet seems too loud in the stillness, every breath drawn, deliberate, careful. Around you, the faint hum of the heater fights the damp cold. casting long, wavering shadows that ripple across peeling wallpaper and faded carpets. Down the hallway, you hear it, a soft, hesitant step, barely audible, but enough to send a shiver through your skin. It's coming from the closet at the far end of the room, a narrow space with a simple white door, its paint chipped and worn. You move toward it instinctively, heart tightening. The air grows colder, thicker, as if the room itself is holding its breath. Your hand hovers over the doorknob, cold metal against your skin. You pause, listening. Another step. Closer. Heavier. Something shifts behind that door. The faint scrape of foot-meeting floor beneath the dim light. The rain outside intensifies, each drop now a sharp little tack on the roof, punctuating the silence between sounds. Thunder rumbles low and distant, an echo of pressures building far beyond the walls of this house. You pull out your phone, checking the time. 3:03 a.m. No messages, no calls. Just the quiet screen illuminating your face. You consider calling for help, but your thumb stalls over the screen. What would you say? That footsteps are moving just behind a closet door in a rented old house, in the middle of a night soaked with rain and shadow. Hands steady but cold, you grip the handle and turn slowly. The door creaks open on reluctant hinges, revealing nothing but darkness within. You flip on your phone's flashlight, a weak beam piercing the gloom. The closet is empty, just quiet, stale air, and the faint smell of damp fabric and dust, thick with the scent of forgotten years. You step back, heart racing in your chest as the rain drums louder outside, thunder rolling in waves that send gentle vibrations beneath your feet. The house seems to settle around you again, as if exhaling, yet the weight of those footsteps you heard lingers, an unanswered question in the night. Sometimes you wonder how much of what we hear in the dark is real, and how much is the space between sound and silence, memory and fear, waiting for us to listen closely enough to believe. If you're listening somewhere quiet, with rain softly drumming outside, maybe tap like or subscribe before this night pulls you deeper in, wherever you are, and whatever time it is. There's something about the hour, just after midnight, that holds the world in a suspended breath. It's 12:47 a.m., and you're standing near the living room window of a small rental house on the outskirts of town, where the streetlights start to grow thin, flickering like tired sentinels in the misted air. The glass feels cool under your fingertips, slick with rain that slides down in uneven streaks, distorting the faint yellow glow of the solitary street lamp across the way. The scent of wet asphalt and earth drifts through the cracked window, damp and sharp. Your breath catches for a moment, visible as a fleeting mist against the pane. There's a subtle chill that creeps along your skin, crawling down your neck as your eyes track the movement outside. The street lamp's light flickers again, a brief dimming and surge that pulls your attention sharply. In that strobing glow, something shifts, just a glimpse, barely there. A shadow passing by the far edge of the yard. Your pulse quickens, a steady thrum sounding in your ears as your gaze tightens on the dark shape that disappears as quickly as it came. Rain ticks and pats its steady tattoo against the roof and the window frame, a familiar rhythm that both soothes and sharpens your senses. The house holds its quiet breath with you. The hum of the heater fills the stillness, but the air feels charged, ready to snap. You lean closer to the window, catching the faint trace of muddy footprints pressed unevenly into the soaked ground beneath the porch light. Footprints you didn't expect to find here, so fresh they glisten with rain. You reach slowly for your phone, fingers brushing its cold glass as you check the time, 12:48 a.m. The signal bars twitch uncertainly, the screen lit softly in the dim room. You consider calling someone, but the thought stalls, stuck in that place where certainty fades into hesitation. Instead, you step back from the window, the clicking of the lock on the back door, a deliberate act of reassurance. The metal feels cold beneath your fingers, yet solid, more real than the shadows outside. The porch light flickers once more, casting quivering silhouettes on the porch boards. You watch as the shadows dance, stretching longer, merging with the dark. There's a creak from somewhere behind you, a floorboard settling or something else entirely, and the rain's quiet patter seems to hush just for a breath. You wonder, as you stand in this flickering light, how many nights this street lamp has caught moments like this, moments when something moves just beyond sight, something close enough to sense, but too faint to understand fully. In this suspended space between shadow and light, what stories live that we'll never quite hear? And when the night covers everything in rain and silence, how do you know what's watching and what's waiting to be found? If you're listening on a rainy night like this, maybe tap like or subscribe before the stillness tightens around you. Where are you right now? What hour has settled the world into this muted rhythm? It's 1:55 a.m., and the rain traces steady fingers down the side window beside you. The sound soft but insistent, a constant tapping that threads through the silence inside this small rental house on the outskirts of a quiet neighborhood. The air is cool and thick, with the smell of wet wood and earth, that unmistakable dampness marking the passing storm. You press your palm lightly against the glass, the chill biting gently through the fabric of your sleeve. Every breath feels slow, deliberate, your senses sharpening in the dark. Outside, the porch light casts a smeared glow across the sodden lawn, and somewhere not far off, a faint, distant creak, a branch shifting, or the house settling deeper into its frame, whispers through the night. You turn away from the window and catch sight of the neighbor's house across the street, its windows dark but watchful, a silhouette framed against the rainy veil. A solitary figure stands there, barely visible, motionless except for the slight adjustment of their posture as they peer toward your place, as if watching, waiting. You feel the weight of eyes, quiet, unblinking, threading through the rain and shadow. Your skin prickles, a cold awareness blooming along your spine. You glance toward the back door you locked moments before, fingers tracing the cold metal of the deadbolt, the secure click grounding you in the physical. Still, that sensation of unseen watchfulness lingers, wrapping tight around the edges of the house's warmth. The rhythmic drumming of the rain fills the space between your heartbeat and the low murmur of distant thunder rolling faintly beneath the night. You reach for your phone, screen illuminating the room with bluish light, checking the time, 1:56 a.m., no missed calls, no messages, only silence punctuated by the relentless rain. For a moment, you wonder if you should call someone, tell a voice out there what you sense. But the quiet voice inside urges restraint. The neighbors live far enough away that help would take time. You lock the door again, slow and deliberate, the latch clicking into place like a seal against the unknown. You glance once more toward that shadowed window across the way, where the neighbor stood still, a silent guardian, or something else entirely. The rain flows, drawing thin rivers down the glass pane, washing the night clear but leaving shadows behind. And as you stand here between light and dark, inside and out, you wonder, when someone watches quietly from the margins, who is protecting whom? And in the vast spaces of night, what separates vigilance from something waiting, not just to see, but to move? If you found yourself here in the quiet dark, thanks for stopping by. And before we start, maybe hit like or subscribe so you can come back when the world feels a little too still. Wherever you are, whatever time it is, I wonder what kind of night has brought you here. Tonight, you're in a rental house somewhere just beyond town, and it's late, later than you expected to be still awake. It's close to 2:44 a.m. Rain presses softly against the side window to your left, delicate and persistent. Each drop is a tiny rhythmic tap, a steady jazz of water slipping and splashing relentlessly down the glass. The air carries that sharp scent of wet earth, cold and pungent, edged with a faint, oily trace of fallen leaves. You reach out, fingers brushing the cool, slick surface of the window frame. The chill seeps into your skin, a sharp contrast to the still warm pulse of your body just moments before. The dampness settles around you, light and unrelenting, wrapping the room in a muted dampness that tastes faintly metallic in the air. You shift your weight, listening. Beyond the rain's soft melody, the neighborhood breathes in darkness and silence, that peculiar hush of a place with few neighbors and fewer passing cars. You hear the occasional sigh of wind threading through the towering oaks behind the house, faint enough to be swallowed by the rain, but present if you're curious enough to let your ears open. The gas street lamp down the road flickers, its halo winking through the mist. Beneath it, the gravel driveway lies empty. No cars, no headlights cutting through the black. Your glance slides from the window down to the floorboards, where the wood creaks ever so lightly as the house flexes in the cool night air. You notice a damp mark just near the base of the wall, a faint spot, slightly muddy, where your shoes might have brushed against it earlier today. You wonder if the rain is bringing something in beneath the window, crawling slowly along the sill. You lower your hand, tracing the edges of the windowsill with your fingertips, catching the rough grain of wet paint. The scent of old pine and faint mildew drifts in the cold air. Then, just as you're settling your breathing, they come. Footsteps. Soft, deliberate. Not on the porch, not the gravel driveway outside the front, but something heavier against the wooden planks of the side veranda, just yards from your window. The rain masks the sound somewhat, but it's close enough to pierce the steady downpour. You pause, silent, the hairs on your neck prickling as the footfalls pace slowly back and forth. Each step lands just seconds apart, measured and unsure. Hesitant. A creak follows, a hinge swinging gently, like a door or gate moving on a breeze. The sound halts abruptly. Silence falls, pressing deeper than the night. The rain's tapping, seeming to fade a little, leaving space for your pulse to thicken. Your hand moves instinctively to the light switch, hesitating before flipping it on. Soft light spills over the room, but the shadows still gather outside the window, impenetrable and shifting under the rain. You step away from the glass, heart steadying but alert. The house feels too still now, as if it's holding its breath. You consider looking through the peephole by the back door a few feet away, though the thick rain might blur more than it reveals. You reach for your phone, fingers wrapping around its smooth surface. Battery's low, signal weak. You're tempted to call, but the words stick in your throat. What would you say? Who could answer when the road is empty and the neighbors asleep miles away? The footsteps don't return. The wet mark on the floor near the window doesn't grow. The rain continues, pulling the night deeper with each drip and slide down glass. You wonder about the quiet intervals between sounds, the heavy silence that hovers just after a noise fades. How often do we fill those spaces with imagined dangers or hoped safety? If you're here with the rain outside and the night pressing close, thanks for joining me. Maybe give that like or subscribe button a tap if you're somewhere quiet, where the sound of water carries weight and the shadows lean in just a little closer. It's a little past 1 a.m., 1:04 a.m. to be exact, and you're in a small rental house, somewhere far enough from neighbors that the night outside your window feels thick and endless. You lie back on the thin mattress, the fabric cool beneath your cheek, and listen. Above you, a skylight holds the blackness of the night, a window onto a sky blurred by steady rain. Each drop taps the glass in scatterings, soft patter, then single, sharper knocks, like tiny hands drumming the night's slow rhythm. The scent of wet wood and cold stone rises faintly, the damp air slipping past the edges of the window's frame and settling lightly against your skin. You feel coolness ripple down your arms, a faint chill alongside the hum of the house's warmth. You sit up slowly, fingers trailing lightly over the room's worn furnishings, the faint texture of peeling paint and threadbare fabric grounding you in this strange place. The rain's patter is almost hypnotic, weaving soft patterns that fill the silence. Yet beneath it lies something else. An undercurrent, a subtle shifting of stillness as the house inhales and exhales you in its rhythm. As you rise to your feet, the old wooden floor creaks beneath your weight, a soft groan that briefly breaks the watery symphony above. Your eyes adjust to the faint hallway light, yellow and flickering, casting long shadows that dance lightly across the narrow space. Outside, the back door stands closed, locked, a reassuring metallic click persistent beneath the patter of rain. Your footsteps sound hollow on the hardwood as you approach, the cold metal handle smooth under your fingers. Hands steady, you double-check the deadbolt, feeling the solid thrum of the lock sliding into place. The chain stretches and clicks, a tiny sound swallowed quickly by the rain's steady percussion on the roof. Looking up again, your gaze settles on the skylight. Raindrops race each other down the glass, mapping erratic, glistening rivers in the dim light. The night beyond remains opaque, a shifting dark, blanketed in cloud and rain. You pause, breath steadying, and listen to the flickering rhythm of water tapping glass, the faint creaks of the house, the distant rumble of thunder rolling low beneath the storm's steady pulse. The quiet draws you back to the subtle textures around you, the chill settling in your skin, the scent of earth and timber rising through the storm, the steady heartbeat of rain tracing the edges of shadow and space. And in that slow measuring between sound and silence, you wonder, how often do we miss the moments when the world leans in, just before the unknown begins to unfold? If you're listening tonight, raining softly around you, maybe tap like or subscribe before the quiet deepens. Especially if you're somewhere where the dark feels so thick, it presses close through the walls. Where are you? What hour has led you here? It's 12:56 a.m., and the rain taps a steady rhythm on the side window just beside you, cool and steady, as it slips down the glass, pooling briefly, before racing in slow rivulets toward the sill. The air carries the scent of wet earth and damp wood, heavy, familiar, but tinged with something else, a faint trace of must and forgotten shadows. You stand just inside the little rental home, that place on the edge of a small town where the neighbors are few, and the roads go quiet by nighttime. The porch light above the back door flickers twice, then settles into a weak, wavering glow. You feel the rough fibers of the welcome mat under your toes, pressed down, soaked from the steady rainfall. Your hand brushes the cold door handle, fingers tracing cold metal layered with dusk and rain. The lock clicks open, a small, sharp sound that seems to echo longer in this stillness. You step outside. The porch boards creak softly beneath your shoes, wet and slick, scent of pine needles clinging to the air. The rain beats steadily on your hood, dark clouds drifting low and heavy overhead. The distant thunder mutters faintly, a slow grumble on the breeze. As you glance down the quiet street, your shadow stretches long and thin, flickering strangely beneath the pale street lamps. Then you notice it, a figure half hidden near the end of the sidewalk, stooped low beneath a wide-brimmed hat, still as the night itself. Movement is slow, deliberate, though no words are spoken. Your heart dips and twists, pulse quickening with that sharp edge of unknown proximity. No footsteps sound, no cars pass, just the soft patter of rain and the faint rustle of leaves stirred by the wind. You consider stepping forward, reaching out through the curtain of rain, but the figure doesn't move. It stands watching, silent, still. Your breath forms a mist, hanging between you, fragile and fleeting. You pull back toward the house, fingers brushing locks once more. The cold strength of metal under your skin, a small comfort. The door closes with a muted click, the chain sliding into place, firm, resolute. Heart still thumping irregularly, you peer out through the peephole, watery glass distorting the lonely street. The figure has vanished, replaced only by dripping trees and soaked pavement glistening in the light. The night reclaims its silence, but the weight of that quiet stranger lingers, pressing just beyond the veil of rain and darkness. How often do we share the night with such silent watchers, standing at the edges of vision and quietly tracing our stories? And in that unspoken presence, when does vigilance become something stranger? A shadow not quite seen, a breath not quite our own. If you're listening tonight beneath the steady rhythm of rain, maybe tap like or subscribe before the quiet wraps fully around you. Wherever you are and whatever time it is, there's something about this hour, the kind when the world blurs along the edges, that pulls you close to small sounds, familiar spaces that suddenly feel unfamiliar. It's 2:18 a.m., and you're standing just outside the rental house you've stayed in for barely a few days. The rain thickens the air, damp and cold enough to press against your skin, carrying the scent of wet asphalt and crushed leaves, sharp and lingering. You pull your jacket tighter and reach for the back door, where the porch light flickers unevenly, casting wavering shadows over soaked floorboards. Your fingers brush the cold brass of the doorknob, smooth and slick beneath your wet gloves. You double-check the lock. Deadbolt engaged, chain hooked. Reassuring, though you know it's a small comfort. The night holds its breath, and even the steady patter of rain seems to hush in sharp anticipation. Before turning back inside, your eyes catch something in the darkened interior beyond the glass. The car parked just off the driveway, a low hum of silence wrapped tightly in shadows. And there, a flicker of movement from the backseat window, just barely perceptible. A shifting shadow, like something alive waiting in the dim light. Your breath catches, cool and uneven in your chest. You bend closer to the glass, the cold seeping through to meet the warmth of your skin, and your sense sharpens. The back seat remains still for a moment, then the shadow shifts again. A hesitation, like a slow exhale you almost didn't notice. No footsteps sound outside, no voices, no door creaks. Just this still silhouette watching from the inside. You step back, the subtle urgency threading through you pulsing stronger now. Rain drums steadily on the porch roof, a wash of steady percussion pressing against your eardrums. Your fingers curl around your phone, flipping it on to reveal the time, 2:19 a.m. You scroll toward the emergency number, thumb hovering, but no call comes. The signal is weak here at the edge of town, the kind that drops just asterisk when you need it most. The house feels suddenly vast, the space between walls and shadows stretching into unknown corners. You glance at the door latch again, slow and deliberate, locking it once more while your heart still races. Outside, the raindrops trace silver trails down the window panes, and that faint, shifting shadow remains, a quiet reminder that not all watchers announce themselves. Sometimes they wait, still and silent, holding their place in the dark. When the world narrows to a breath and heartbeat, damp air and distant thunder, what part of you listens? And how do you measure the boundary between protection and peril when the quiet is filled with things unseen? If you're here, with rain steady outside and night settling heavy like a thick blanket, maybe tap like or subscribe before the silence pulls you deeper inside, where you're listening and what hour has lent you this quiet moment. I wonder. It's 2:11 a.m., and you're standing at the edge of the backyard, near the dim glow of the porch light that barely cuts through the damp darkness. The air is cool, the scent of earth and wet wood weaving strong and sharp, clinging beneath your skin. Rain taps a steady pattern on the side window, but here in the open air, it falls with heavy slap and whisper, saturating the night. A sudden sharpness cuts through the familiar cadence. The faintest creak, soft and urgent, sounding from just beyond your grasp. Your eyes flick toward the garage. The door that should be firmly shut hangs slightly ajar, a narrow crack splitting the usual silhouette. You hadn't left it open, had you? The chill that sweeps through the air feels deeper here, damp and cold, almost like breath. Your heart quickens as you step closer. The wet grass presses cold beneath your shoes. Droplets catch in your hair and cling to your jacket. Reaching out, fingers brush the edge of the garage door, cool metal slick with rain. The space inside is shadowed, empty but for the faint, restless rustle of things settling in the dark. The door's slow, faint sway whispers a quiet invitation. You hesitate. The night feels suddenly vast and simultaneously boxed in. You listen harder. The rain's steady thrum layered with a subtle metallic drip, a soft scuffle like small movements just out of sight. The sharp scent of oil and earth rises from within the garage, tinged with something metallic and cold. You pull your phone from your pocket, the screen's soft light holding the time. 2:12 a.m. No messages, no missed calls. You rub your fingers nervously along the cold buckle of your jacket and make a choice. Lock everything tighter or peer inside. You check the outside locks again, deadbolt firm, porch chain fastened. Safety in the cold resistance of metal. A slow creak, the door settling or something else shifting. The brush of unseen steps on wet concrete. You lean close, gaze cutting through the murky space beyond the gap. Shapes shift. Your mind runs the edges, slow and careful. The garage is a small universe in itself, its silence dense as the rain outside. You step back, closing and securing the door with slow precision, the locking bolt clicking sharp and sure. Rain hammers the roof overhead with a steady cadence that seems both shielding and exposing. The cold air still presses in, carrying the faintest echo of movement, something watched, waiting just beyond vision. And so the night holds its breath, rain tapping on glass, shadows folding inward. How much of safety is in the locks we choose to fasten? And how often do the places we think are secure hide the quietest things waiting just beyond the door? If you're sitting somewhere quiet, rain tapping a steady rhythm on your window, thanks for joining me tonight. Maybe tap like or subscribe before the silence wraps around you tightly, especially if you're here at an hour when the world feels thin and fragile. It's just past midnight, 12:17 a.m., and you're in a small rental tucked just beyond town, the kind of place where the nights are long and the neighbors are distant enough to feel more like shadows than people. The air is cool, thick with the scent of wet pine and damp earth that slips through the cracks around the window frame. You press your finger against the glass, watching water make slow, twisting tracks down the pane. The chill bites gently at your skin, drawing a shiver you don't mind. Outside, the street lamp casts a pool of hazy yellow, fuzzy around the edges as the rain blurs and slides. The house hums quietly, the soft groan of pipes, the faint buzz of the heater, the slow creak of wood settling into the night. You pull your jacket tighter, wrapping yourself in warmth, as your eyes drift to the dark hallway. Somewhere in the quiet, the clock ticks heavily, each second stretching a little too long beneath the weight of the storm. Then, abruptly, your phone rings, sharp and unexpected. The screen glows cold in your hand. Unknown caller. Your breath hitches, the room holds its breath too. Fingers hesitate as the ringtone pulses, a steady throb echoing the rain outside. You don't know what made the sound feel like more than just a call, like a signal threaded into the night itself. With deliberate care, you answer. Silence. Nothing but faint static, the low hiss of rain on the roof just beyond. You strain to catch a sound, A voice, a hint of someone there, but the line stays broken, waiting, empty. You move toward the back door, hand resting on the lock, still firm, the chain in place. The rain's heavy patter becomes steady background music. You glance through the peephole. The porch is wet, deserted, and the yard swallowed in shadow. No footprints, no movement beyond a drifting leaf caught in the light. The phone continues to vibrate softly in your palm, but the call never returns. You end it, shaking off the unease that loops quietly through your mind. The house exhales. The night reclaims its stillness. You consider calling someone back, but the fog of distance pulls tight around the number. Instead, you sit, listening to the rain's steady pulse, and wondering in the quiet moments when something calls without a voice, who are we truly speaking to? And when the line between safety and something unknown blurs with the thunder, how long do we wait before the silence answers? If you're here in a quiet place where the rain falls steady and the night swallows everything whole, thanks for joining me. Maybe tap like or subscribe if you're somewhere where shadows feel a little heavier and the silence seems to stretch thin. It's 1:48 a.m. and the steady tapping on the side window draws you in, cool and rhythmic, mixing with the soft scent of wet wood and earth seeping through the cracked corners of this small rental house. You're standing now in the kitchen, the air thick with humidity and the faint must of old pipes and lingering rain. The faucet leaks somewhere nearby, each drop a soft, uneven percussion against the quiet night. Your fingers trail along the cold countertop, tracing the chipped edges, grounding yourself in the familiar textures. The room is dimly lit by a single bulb, flickering weakly in a corner fixture, casting long, restless shadows that shift with the rhythm of the rain. As you turn, a cold draft brushes against your skin, a sudden drop in temperature that makes the hairs on your arms rise. Your eyes catch the open window over the sink, the curtain billowing slightly as the rain whispers just beyond the frame. You didn't leave it open. The window creaks softly, pushed by rain-blown wind that snakes inside. You step closer, breath shallow, heart picking up a steady beat, fingers curled tightly around the window frame, feeling the slick cold of rain-soaked wood beneath your touch. Outside, the garden is blurred by the downpour, dark shapes muted under clumps of wet leaves, puddles gathering in hollowed earth. The soft swish of rain belies a sharper sound, a faint scrape, like a stone dragged slowly across the wet path just beyond the porch light. You swivel swiftly, eyes wandering through the kitchen and toward the back door you locked earlier. The lock feels solid beneath your fingertips, cold metal wards closing tight against the dark. Another sound, the scrape again, this time near the side of the house just beyond the window. Your breath catches and you crouch slightly, peering through the dripping glass. Nothing clearly moves in the sodden yard, but the moist earth bears the faintest trace of footprints, small, irregular, wet and dark against the dirt. Your fingers tighten around a phone resting on the counter, thumb flicking nervously over the screen. It glows, 1:49 a.m. No messages, no missed calls. You ponder calling someone, but the slow drip of water and the relentless tapping of rain fills the space between thought and action. The curtains sway a little more, and the night seems to pause, holding its breath. You wonder how many times a night has folded just like this, with rain tracing patterns on glass and strangers unseen brushing close in shadows. When the wind carries a whisper through an open window, how do you decide what is just the storm, and what is something waiting to be noticed? If you're listening somewhere dark, the rain falling steady outside your window, thanks for being here. Maybe tap like or subscribe if you're wrapped in a blanket or sitting by a familiar light. Wherever you are, whatever hour has brought you here, I want you to settle into this moment with me. It's just after midnight, 12:13 a.m., and the rain taps a soft, insistent rhythm against the side window, pulling the night inward around you. The air smells sharp, wet earth, old wood, and the faint tang of rain washing down gutters. You feel the difference immediately when you lean closer to the glass, cool and slick where the water beads and runs in unpredictable rivulets. Your breath briefly fogs the pain, then dissolves into the heavy night air that presses quietly in the room behind you. A shiver runs down your spine, not just from draft, but something unspoken, a trace left by the falling rain. You take a slow step away from the window, padding quietly toward the hallway, your feet soft on cold hardwood. Every creak seems louder here, the floorboards settling in ways you hadn't noticed before. The house exhales around you, filled with shadows that pool and stretch, folding into corners like they're alive. Somewhere distant, the low croak of a frog or the rustle of unseen branches moves with the wind. Then, almost beneath the surface of the steady rain, comes a sound. A whispered word, barely audible, like a breath caught just beyond the walls, soft and fleeting, yet unmistakably there. You stop. The hair on your arms rises as the silence that follows stretches impossibly long and tight. You move forward slowly, senses sharpening. The whispered word repeats, stretched thin, like a fragile thread, spoken just past the bedroom door down the hall. Your heart beats in measured rhythm against the sudden quiet. You reach out, hand brushing the door frame, feeling the cool lacquered wood beneath rough fingertips. The house holds its breath. You lean close, listening hard, straining for another sound. The moisture thickens the air until it swells between you and the dark beyond. Then another whisper, a name. Not one you know, but clear, softly spoken like a secret carried on the rain. Your mind races to reason. Wind, a dream, a distant voice carried from a neighbor's house. But the windows are closed, the locks secure. The quiet here absolute, except for that fragile voice threading through the storm. You pull back from the door and glance again at the window. Rain traces new patterns on the glass. The night waits. And in that waiting, you wonder, how often did the names whispered in the dark belong not to the living, but to the stories we don't dare speak aloud? When does the boundary between waking and dream sharpen enough to glimpse what lies just beyond? If the rain is falling steady where you are, and the night feels thick around the edges, maybe tap like or subscribe before we settle into this quiet moment together. Wherever you listen, and whatever holds the hour for you, it's just past 1:30 a.m., and you find yourself near the living room of a small rental house, standing quietly at the edge of town. Outside, rain taps on the side window in a loose, uneven rhythm. Sometimes a steady drum, sometimes a soft patter, mingling with the cool scent of wet wood and earth drifting through a cracked window. You reach out and let your fingertip trace the glass, chilled by the damp air pressed close. Water trails down in rivulets, glinting faintly in the muted glow of the lamp. The room carries the warm musk of old fabric and fading smoke from the fire you lit earlier. But there's a subtle draft brushing the back of your neck that feels out of place. The fireplace flickers low, embers casting slow-dancing shadows on walls worn thin by time. Nearby, an empty chair faces the fire, an ordinary chair, but somehow it feels weighted, as if holding the absence of someone not far away. You move toward it, footsteps muffled by the thick rug beneath your soles. The air is cool, where the warmth from the hearth doesn't reach, and the candlelight trembles gently, suggesting movement in the stillness. You pause, noting the faint scent of damp wool and unwashed skin, less like the room and more like a presence once here. The rain's rhythm outside blends with the soft creak of the old wooden floor, the house settling into its own sleepy breath. A sudden gust brushes through the slightly open back door, causing the latch to rattle softly, a delicate clink swallowed almost immediately by the patter of water. You cross to the door, fingers brushing the cold brass of the handle as you close it fully, the click of the lock a small, solid victory in the night's uncertainty. Behind the door, the garden waits, drenched and silent except for the thrumming pulse of rain falling on leaves and pavement, every drop a soft echo. Returning, your gaze falls again on the empty chair by the fire. Its wooden arms seem to stretch out, inviting, or maybe holding. You settle nearby, heart slowing to match the rain's cadence, breath even as shadows pool and drift across the room. You wonder how often absence holds more weight than presence, how silence can carry stories whispered only between breaths. In the quiet nights where rain threads itself through the dark, what parts of us stay, unseen but felt? And in the spaces left empty, who sits just beside us, waiting to be noticed? If you're here on a rainy night, maybe tap like or subscribe before the darkness settles fully. Where are you listening from? What hour pulls you into this quiet that feels both familiar and strange? It's just past midnight, 12:23 a.m., and the rain taps a steady rhythm against the side window beside you. A soft but persistent sound that drapes itself around the house like a slow pulse. The scent of damp wood and fresh earth creeps into the air, clinging to your skin and lending the room a cool heaviness. You stand near the foot of the staircase, a faint chill crawling up your spine as your eyes drop to the worn wooden steps before you. Something's not right. There, pressed into the second step, are patches of dark mud, fresh, uneven, and far too distinct to have been tracked in earlier today. Your pulse quickens at the sight of footprints, smeared across the risers and landing pads in wet, glistening clumps. They lead upwards, vanishing just beyond the turn where the hallway light catches only shadows. The house is silent besides the rain's steady drumming. The quiet swallows most sounds, but you swear you catch something else, barely audible, a faint creak, a subtle shift as if the floor itself breathes beneath your feet. Your breath freezes for a heartbeat, before slowly exhaling, sharp and deliberate. You lift a cautious hand, fingertip brushing the cool edge of the stair rail, feeling the slight grit of moisture and dirt where soil has tracked in from outside. The damp air swirls heavier, mingling with the faint sense of old pine and musty plaster. The faint glow from a solitary hallway bulb strikes dust motes dancing just above the stairs, like tiny secrets caught in motion. Your steps are careful as you begin to ascend, the boards creaking softly under your weight. The scent of rain grows stronger, earthy and raw, whispering of outside corners still dripping water and soil. With each step, the dark marks grow fresher, more urgent, as if somebody passed not long ago, leaving an imprint that unsettles. You pause, peering into the dim hall beyond the stairs. The door to the back room sits closed, bolts secure, or so you hoped. The shadows gather thickly there, folding into corners where your eyes strain for shapes beyond the light. The wet mud beneath your shoes seems to pulse in that dimness, a quiet reminder that something has crossed the threshold you thought robust and unyielding. The rain's heartbeat softens, almost hesitant now, as if listening with you. The house exhales again, a distant sigh from walls too old to forget. You glance at the clock on the wall, 12:25 a.m., and check the door locks reflexively, feeling the cold steel against your fingertips. Everything seems secure, but the faintest sound, a whisper of fabric, a soft scrape, hollows your chest. You drop to the floor, breath catching, ears straining, but only silence meets you. The rain falls steady and true outside. And you wonder, as the muddy prints slowly fade into night, when the space between footsteps starts to blur, how do you tell if what you hear is just the house settling, or something watching from just beyond? If you're listening tonight, rain tapping steady against your window, maybe tap like or subscribe before the dark draws you deeper into this quiet. Wherever you are, what hour has pulled you here? It's 2:12 a.m., and you're lying in an unfamiliar bed inside a small rental somewhere just outside town. The evening storm presses close, water sluicing down gutters and pooling in slow drips from the eaves. The air carries that fresh, heavy scent of damp earth and soaked wood, cool and a little sharp against your skin. You're trying to settle, letting the rain's rhythm seep into your bones, but the house feels different tonight. Not in any single overt way. No creaks louder than usual, no gusts blearing against the shutters louder than the rain's own breath, but just a quiet shift in the atmosphere. The kind of thing you notice when your senses are awake in the dark. Then, almost between heartbeats, you see it, a faint circle of light, moving slowly beneath the bed. It's small and pale, a flashlight beam carving through the shadows under the mattress. For a moment, you wonder if your eyes have betrayed you, maybe a trick of reflected streetlights or distant passing cars filtering faintly through the curtains. But the glow remains, a steady pulse in the dark under your room. Your breath catches, the hairs on your arms stand out. Heart picking up pace, you force yourself to sit up slowly, muscles tight, eyes fixed on the hovering light. Another flicker, a hesitant movement. Not just the beam, but something behind it. A slow, deliberate shift, as if someone or something is crouched low, watching or waiting beneath the furniture. You scan the room carefully, fingertips curling into the bedsheets as you lean forward. The wooden floor beneath is cool, the corners of the room swallowed in darkness, except for that uneasy shaft of light. Your hand moves toward the edge, the faint scent of wet fabric and old dust, tangible, real, winding through the stillness. The rain's steady tapping continues, blending with the distant rumble of thunder rolling low like a muttered warning. Outside, the faint hum of an engine far down a deserted road fades and returns intermittently, distant but insistent against the night's deep quiet. You don't reach for the light at first. Instead, your fingers move carefully to the phone on the nightstand, brightness soft and steady. You check the time, 2:13 a.m., and scroll quickly to your emergency contact, thumb hovering, hesitation tightly woven with instinct and fear. But instead of calling, you lean back slightly, listening now as the light under the bed wavers again, inching closer to the edge. It's a moment suspended in liminal space, the thin thread between what you can see and what is just beyond, stretched taut by quiet rain, cool air, and shifting shadows. How often do we convince ourselves that what we can't see is nothing at all? And when the shadows flicker beneath the familiar, what else might be watching back, waiting in the small, dark places we overlook? Before we settle into this moment, take a breath. Maybe tap the like or subscribe button if you're listening somewhere quiet, somewhere where the night feels both familiar and strange. I wonder where you are, and what hour has brought you here to this story. Right now, it's 3:43 a.m. Rain slides down the side window next to you. A steady, soft rhythm that presses against the silence like a slow heartbeat. You're standing in the narrow hallway of a small rental house, the one you barely know yet know well enough to feel a certain edge tonight. The air is cool, damp. There's that distinct scent of wet wood mixed with the faint whisper of earth and rain-soaked leaves from outside. You reach out, your fingertips grazing the grainy texture of the wall, moisture clinging lightly to your skin, a chill settling where the warm air meets the cold dampness. Outside, the rain is steady but not storming, a constant drizzle that softens every sound beyond the glass. The street lamp outside flickers occasionally, its light pooling over the gravel driveway in muted circles. You notice no cars. The neighborhood sleeps under this gentle rain. Distant houses dark, their windows like closed eyelids. You move slowly toward the back door, the quiet back door, the one at the far end of the house that leads to the patch of grass behind the yard. The shadowed side porch you almost forgot was there. As you get closer, the floorboards shift slightly underfoot, giving off a soft creak, oddly loud in the stillness. Your hand finds the doorknob and pauses. The metal is cool and slick with condensation. You curl your fingers around it, feeling the familiar shape. Then check the locks one by one. A deadbolt, a latch, the chain that clicks softly into place. You press your face toward the small peephole, embedded in the door, and peer out into the rain-blurred night. Through the glass, the porch is empty, the wet wood shining faintly under the porch light. The rain casts ripples on the leaves and puddles below, but nothing. No sign of movement, no shadow shifting just beyond the light's reach. With a blink, your mind begins to fill in the spaces where shapes might hide or sounds might emerge, and you pull back, the glass cool against your face. Then, the silence is broken, not by a knock or a scrape, but the faintest shuffle of footsteps on gravel, soft enough to be mistaken for the wind or small animals outside. But your senses tell you it's deliberate. Step, pause, step. The sound drifts away slowly, disappearing in the rainy dark beyond the yard, swallowed by the falling water. Your breath catches, the air seeming thicker now, heavier, with the question of who or what made those steps. Behind you, the house holds its steady hum, the faint buzz of the refrigerator, the occasional drip from the faucet farther inside, the low pulse of your own heartbeat. You lock the door again, slow and deliberate, thumbs pressing into each bolt, making sure this time is sure. The rain continues without change, a steady soundtrack to a night growing dense with unspoken things. You step back, leaving the door closed, footsteps retracing toward the warm light of the living room. The heavy softness of the rain muffles all but your breath, and the slight creaks of the house settling into the night. You wonder how moments like these settle in your mind, how the body remembers the chill of damp air on skin, the sound of footsteps just beyond reach, the way silence itself can feel full. When the back door stays quiet, but the night outside holds its secrets, what is it that keeps you watchful? And in the space between safety and mystery, how long does it take before you stop listening, and the darkness finally stops answering? If you're listening in a room with rain pressing softly against the windows, maybe pause for a moment and tap like or subscribe before the quiet pulls you deeper in, especially if the night around you feels thick, far from the familiar. Where are you? What hour has led you here? It's just past midnight, 12:05 a.m., and you're somewhere on the edge of town, in a small rental house with an old, sloped roof that gathers the storm like a secret. The air smells cool and damp, earth and wood mingling with the faint metallic tang of rain sliding over gutters and shingles. You're drawn to the sounds above, the gentle drumming of rain on the rooftop creating a steady rhythm, a slow heartbeat that fills the silence around you. Leaning close to the window set high in the slanting ceiling, your fingertips trace the cold glass, slick with water that slips in tiny streams toward the edges. The drops fall unevenly, pattering softly then heavy, a slow cascade like soft applause from the sky itself. The room feels smaller and stranger here, tilted walls pressing in slightly, shadows deepening where the lamplight fades. The wooden beams overhead creak with the house's slow breathing, and somewhere just beyond the glass, a flash of lightning forks silently, briefly illuminating the rain-wet landscape beyond. You watch the rain play across the glass, nourishing the earth beyond, while also seeming to draw something out, something waiting in the dark spaces beneath each drop's fall. The steady rhythm is broken, not by thunder, but by a faint, irregular sound. A soft tapping, perhaps, like the lightest footsteps on creaking shingles. You tilt your head, listening as the sound fades and returns, slipping just beyond clarity. Your heartbeats thrum in tandem with the tapping. A shiver brushes your skin, despite the warmth you've wrapped around yourself. You steady your breathing and turn away from the window, tracing your steps to the back door you locked earlier. Fingers brush across the cold deadbolt, every click reassuring in its clean snap. You tug the chain into place with slow determination, feeling the weight of each secure latch like armor against the unknown. Outside, the rain hums, a chorus of quiet persistence blending with distant thunder rolling soft and low across the hills. You glance once more toward the window above, where the raindrops continue their endless descent, tracing transient patterns that catch the dim light and vanish like whispered secrets. There's comfort here, in the sound of rain and the sure feel of locking bolts, but also a lingering question that settles in the spaces between drops. When the night listens as closely as you do, when the rain drums out a steady beat over quiet roofs, what is it waiting to tell you? And how do you tell the difference between the world's ordinary murmurs and the quiet truths hiding just beyond the storm? If you're listening with the rain tapping steadily nearby, maybe take a moment to tap like or subscribe before the quiet turns heavier. Wherever you are, whatever hour has drawn you here, take a breath and step into this moment. It's 1:18 a.m., the kind of late hour when the world feels suspended, and even the smallest sound holds weight. You're in a rental house perched on the edge of town, where street lights flicker weakly and the night wraps tight around empty roads. You pull back the curtain by the kitchen window and peer out into the soaked driveway. Rain cuts down in cold sheets, tapping a sharp rhythm on the glass, and the air smells thick. Wet asphalt and crushed leaves, mingled with something faintly metallic, like the last breath of a storm's electricity. Your skin shivers as the cool air slips inside with the swing of the window. There it is, a car, parked, not under a street lamp, unlike everything else. Dark, still, no headlights, no interior lights, no signs of life. The shape is solid against the soaked driveway, its edges lost in shadows smearing into the rain. You blink, as if blinking might erase what you see, but the car remains, empty, waiting. You step back, heart fluttering slightly, breath uneven, and the house groans softly, the aged floorboards settling. Or maybe something more. You check the locks on the back door again, fingers tracing the cold metal bolts and the chain, hearing each one click firmly into place. Secure. Yet the chill in your chest refuses to ease. Outside, the rain drums relentlessly on porch and pavement. A distant rumble moves low across the sky, soft but insistent, the growl of thunder gathering in the dark beyond the clouds. Your eyes flick to the phone resting on the counter, screen glowing faintly with the time, 1:19 a.m. You pick it up, thumb hovering over emergency numbers, but hesitate. Who do you call when the road is empty? The night holds its secrets tightly, and the silence feels like a warning. You glance back once more through the window. The car's still there. No motion inside, no glowing sensors or reflections. Just a dark, silent presence that doesn't fit the quiet town or the steady rain. The porch light above flickers briefly, a pale pulse that casts trembling shadows over the wet driveway. The night draws a breath, holding it just a moment longer. You wonder how many times some presence waits without a sound, how many stories hide behind quiet cars parked in the dark. And as the rain continues to fall, relentless and soft, you ask yourself, when darkness holds its secrets so close, how do you know if you're being watched or simply left alone? If you're listening tonight with rain brushing steadily against the windows, maybe pause for a moment and tap like or subscribe before the quiet deepens around you. Wherever you are, at whatever hour, it's just past midnight, 12:05 a.m., and the rain is soft and steady, dampening the world outside and filling the air with that cool, earthy scent only a storm can bring. You're in a small rental house, the kind with creaking floors and walls that seem to hold on to long-forgotten secrets. You sit down at the old wooden desk, tucked in a corner of the living room, fingers trailing along its rough surface, still damp with moisture that seeps indoors on the night's breath. The room smells faintly of rain, old pine, and something sharp, an undercurrent of neglect wrapped in familiar dust. The glow from the single lamp beside you casts crooked shadows, twisting with the movement of the flickering flame, drawing long patterns onto the peeling wallpaper. Drawn by sudden curiosity, your hand moves to the desk drawer, the metal handle cold beneath your fingers. You pull it open slowly, the hinges protesting softly with a thin creak that reverberates, sharpening the stillness. Inside rests a small pile of folded papers, yellowed and worn. You unfold one carefully, the edges brittle, the ink faded but still legible. The note is brief, scribbled in hurried handwriting. It speaks of doors left open, of footsteps heard when no one should be near. A warning, or perhaps a plea. The words seem to tremble with the weight of something unspoken, something watched, something waiting just beyond the walls. Your gaze flicks around the room. The soft splash of rain against the window mixes with the faint groan of the house settling its old bones. Somewhere outside, a branch brushes against the siding, the sound sharp and alive in the quiet. Your heart ticks faster, pulses shadowed by the words in your hand. You fold the note back carefully and stand, the floorboards creaking beneath your movements. You step toward the window, fingers brushing the cold glass, the rain blurring the streetlight beyond into shimmering gold. The darkness outside feels thick, the night seeming to lean close, as if listening. Your steps take you to the back door, the locks grazing cold steel beneath your fingertips as you check them all once more. Deadbolt, latch, chain, each closing with a soft finality. The scent of damp earth drifts in through a crack beneath the door, mingling with the house's heavy breath. As you turn back inside, you wonder about the stories hidden in these quiet spaces, in the notes left behind by those who came before. How long do words linger in rooms like this? And when footsteps echo in empty halls, what parts of ourselves do we leave behind, unseen yet stirring, in the shadows? If you're here tonight, with the rain tapping steadily against your window, maybe pause for a moment and tap like or subscribe before the quiet deepens around you. Wherever you are, whatever hour holds the world, there's something about this late night, a time when shadows lean close, the air holds a chill, and small sounds grow larger, more urgent. It's just past midnight, 12:03 a.m., and you're in a small rental house that seems soaked through with history, rain, and silence. You're near the living room window, the glass slick and cool beneath your palm. Beyond, the yard is blurred and wet, bathed in the dim orange glow of a lone street lamp flickering sporadically. The steady rhythm of raindrops drumming on the sill fills the room with a soft, restless music. You lean closer, breath fogging the glass before cool air pushes it away once more. The night smells sharp, wet earth mingled with old wood, a heady scent carried in on the damp. Then, a knock, soft, deliberate, almost hesitant, coming not from the front door, but the window beside you. The sharpness of it slices through the steady rain's percussion, a quick rap, followed by a pause. The kind of knocking you don't expect in the dead of night on a second-story window. Your heart squeezes tight with surprise, fingers tightening on the cool frame. You step back, eyes scanning the dark exterior, only the rain-swollen branches shifting in the breeze, the wet lawn shimmering faintly in the lamplight. You drift to the door, hands sliding over the cold metal of the deadbolt and the chain, securing the locks again with slow care. The click sounds louder than you want, a single sharp note swallowed fast by the house's quiet. You breathe slowly, trying to steady the pulse racing in your ears. A faint scuffing sound, barely there, draws your attention to the porch light's weak halo filtering wet shadows. That soft scrape is swallowed quickly by the rain, but it's enough to make you glance back toward the window, where the knock had come and went. You step closer to the glass again, tracing erratic watermarks with your fingertips, searching for meaning in the abstract patterns the rain leaves behind. No shapes linger in the sodden yard, no footprints press boldly into the softened soil. Only the stillness and the feeling of being watched. Your phone buzzes quietly in your pocket, 12:04 a.m., screen glowing faintly, empty of calls or messages. You don't call anyone, but your fingers hover a moment, heart halting between caution and curiosity. The night inclines toward silence once more, rain gathering in countless droplets that drum steady, soft, endless, and you wonder, how often do the smallest sounds arrive with meaning we refuse to hear? When a knock comes quiet and unexpected, who else holds their breath in the dark alongside you? If you're here with the rain tapping steady outside your window, thanks for settling in. Maybe tap like or subscribe if the quiet feels thick enough to lean into. Wherever you are, whatever hour keeps you held in this moment, it's past midnight, 1:22 a.m. to be precise. You're inside a small rental house that presses close against a wide stretch of farmland, where the only other lights you might catch are distant and scattered like stars fallen to the earth. The air here smells of wet soil, damp wood, and something grittier, colder beneath it all. You move slowly through the house, a gentle creak under your foot drawing you west, toward the basement door. There's a chill that travels with you, a cold spot in the air that isn't just temperature, something heavier, dampening. Your fingers trail along the faded paint of the walls, catching on the texture of age and neglect, before coming to the doorknob, cool metal slick beneath your palm. You reach upward and turn the knob gently. The latch clicks softly, a sound swallowed almost immediately by the low, steady pulse of rain on the roof. You shift the door open, and a cold breath rises to meet you, sharp and earthy. The basement's darkness rolls forward, thick and silent, the faint smell of mildew deepened with the scent of old stone and rusted plumbing. Pausing at the threshold, you flick the light switch. The bulb flickers once before steadying, casting a pale yellow glow over cracked concrete and dusty boxes stacked unevenly beneath exposed pipes. The air is colder still here, damp settling in your clothes, clinging to your skin. Somewhere down in the shadows, a faint drip echoes, rhythmic and slow like a heartbeat out of sync with your own. You take cautious steps forward, feet quiet on the cool floor. The glow from your phone's flashlight dances along the walls, briefly brushing a darkened corner where a faint movement seems to glide, just out of sight. Your breath catches, and the hairs on your neck rise. A soft creak, floorboards shifting, or something else. Silence follows, heavy and waiting. You reach toward a shelf and feel the rough surface of an old wooden crate, the musty smell rising as you lift the lid. Inside, stacks of forgotten papers sit folded and yellowed, stories left to fade with time. The rain outside keeps its steady tattoo, the distant roll of thunder murmuring low beneath the house's quiet whisper. You glance back toward the stairs, heart still pounding with the secret chill wrapped inside this cold room. In moments like this, you wonder how much of the world below your feet hides unseen stories, and when the cold weighs heavy, how long before the silence itself begins to speak. The rain is steady tonight, a constant rhythm striking the roof and windows, threading through the silence that has settled inside this old rental. The air carries that distinct scent, the wet wood, heavy earth, and a faint trace of something unwashed, like forgotten fabric left to steep in damp darkness. You can feel the chill pressing in, the dampness clinging softly to your skin as you walk through the quiet house, with only the occasional creak beneath your feet to mark the passage of time. You pause at the foot of the stairwell. There, resting against the corner where the wall meets the hardwood steps, sits a backpack. It wasn't there before, or at least you don't remember seeing it. The fabric is soaked and muddied, heavy in all the wrong places, as if it's been dragged across a wet sidewalk or left outside long enough to catch the rain's full embrace. Your fingertips brush lightly over its surface, cool and rough with grit. The house feels deeper here, the walls pressing just a little closer, the shadows longer, more insistent. Outside, the rain continues, a steady murmur threading through the humid air. Every drop is a small drumbeat in the symphony of the night, at once familiar and strange. You listen for other sounds, and your ears catch the faintest scrape, like soft footsteps just beyond the back door, muffled by the downpour. Your breath catches, sharp and sudden, as you recall locking every door earlier. Still, the unease coils tighter, a knot of anticipation threading through your thoughts. You lean over, fingers tracing the zipper, half expecting something to stir within. The damp smell rises, mingled with the sharper scent of rust and old leather. You step back, heart picking up its rhythm, and your gaze flickers toward the window near the stairwell. Outside, the world is blurred and wet, a patchwork of reflecting streetlights and shadowy trees dripping with rain. The quiet is thick here, except for the rhythm of water against glass, and the occasional distant rumble of thunder rolling low and slow. The faint light flickers briefly, shadows moving in the periphery of your vision. Reaching for your phone, you glance at the time, 2:57 a.m. You consider calling someone, anyone, but the signal is weak and uncertain. Instead, you check the locks again, bolting and securing, each click a fragile barrier. The backpack remains on the stairs, mute and still. It doesn't belong, yet it waits without sound or sign of life. Its presence draws your mind to the thin line between an accident and intent, between a forgotten moment and a quiet intrusion. In the weight of the rain and the stillness of the house, you wonder, how often do we invite the unknown inside with one careless step? And when the shadows settle, what stories do these silent objects carry? Waiting, always waiting, for someone to notice. If you're here tonight, listening under a whispering rain, maybe tap like or subscribe before the silence holds you close. Somewhere out there, past midnight, the world narrows down to the soft patter of water and the shadows folded beneath a lonely street lamp. You're sitting at a bus stop on the side of an empty interstate, miles from the nearest town. The air thick with wet concrete and cold metal, wrapped in the scent of damp asphalt and pine trees soaked by a steady rain. It's 12:43 a.m. and the cold presses in through the thin fabric of your jacket, sharp against your skin. You pull your hood tighter against the drizzle, eyes catching the faint halos of distant headlights blurred by the mist. The road stretches away on either side, dark, glimmering with slick patches, and a lone semi rumbles by in the distance, its tires hissing against wet pavement before disappearing into the night. The silence returns like a heavy sigh, broken only by the rhythmic drip from the curved shelter above, each drop a delicate note on a glassy drum. There's something about this stillness that sets your nerves on edge. The bus stop bench beneath you is cold, slick with rain that settles into cracks and crevices. You reach down, feeling the smoothness of the wet wood beneath your fingertips. A stray leaf flutters in the wind, settling near your boot, its dripping edges trembling faintly in the chilly breeze. You glance along the road, waiting. The next bus is hours away, the schedule a faint smear on your phone screen where your fingers brush over the faint glow. No signal here. You're alone, truly alone, save for the occasional passing car, each one silent without headlights, as if the drivers themselves are ghosts slipping through the dark. Suddenly, a faint rustle from behind the shelter pulls your attention. A soft scraping sound, a whispered step on wet gravel. You hold your breath, muscles tensing beneath damp clothes, eyes scanning the shapeless trees beyond the guardrail. Nothing moves at first but shadow and rain. Then, just at the edge of your vision, a dark figure shifts, disappearing behind the shelter's metal supports. Heart quickening, you slide down a notch on the bench, fingers brushing your phone, searching for any signal, any way to call. but nothing comes. The rain thickens, falling harder now, drumming louder on the shelter's roof, washing the world into a blur of water and shadow. You wonder quietly, in a place like this, where isolation stretches endless as the sky, what do you do when you feel eyes tracing you in the dark? And when the night is so quiet, so far from anyone, how do you decide if what moves beyond your sight is simply nothing, or the beginning of something you can't understand? You're alone tonight, the rain wrapping around this rental house like a quiet curtain, pressing close under the heavy scent of wet earth and old pines. The storm has been coming down steadily for hours. Drip, drip, drip against the window beside you, slow and steady like a heartbeat too soft to find a rhythm. You notice how the air clings damp and thick, settling on your skin, easing its cool fingers under the collar of your jacket as you move through the dim room. Your steps are careful, deliberate on the creaking hardwood as you head toward the porch door, the one that leads out to the backyard, shadowed and slick with rain. The handle is cold and slick under your fingers, a small connection to the outside world you half want to escape and half fear. You double-check the deadbolt and the chain, each click solid and reassuring in this quiet house. In this stretched-out moment where every noise hangs heavy, a sudden tap, soft but sure, breaks the rhythm of water on wood. Your heart thuds sharply, and your breath catches. The sound comes again, once, twice, measured and slow, right outside the glass door. You press an eye to the peephole, the rain swirling beyond in dizzy circles, but you see nothing but empty blackness and blurred shapes blurred by the steady fall. You pull back, fingers pressed tight over the lock, weighing the balance between safety and the unexpected. The rain's soft patter becomes your steady soundtrack now, every droplet, a soft signal that blends with the distant rumble of thunder threading through the night sky. Curiosity nudges you forward, your steps hesitant as you move inside, closer to the armchair near the window. There, on the small table beside it, something catches your eye. A crumpled piece of paper, damp but not sodden, as if placed there carefully. You pick it up, fingers brushing over the rough texture, and unfold it slowly. The handwriting is hurried, the ink blurred but readable enough to make out a simple request. If you find this, please help me. Lost, cold, afraid. Your breath slows, the weight of those words sinking between the spaces where the rain falls. You glance outside again, searching the shadows, the swirling dark where no shape stirs. The house feels both refuge and cage, warm yet filled with unspoken echoes. With your phone in hand, you check the time. Just past 2 a.m., no signal, no immediate way to call for help. You close your eyes briefly and imagine the story behind this note. A person caught in the storm, reaching out beyond the silence. The rain continues, its rhythm unchanging, washing the world clean but never quite erasing the traces left behind. And you wonder, when a silent plea surfaces in the quietest places, how do we answer? What does it mean to listen when the night holds so many whispered stories just beyond sight? If you're settling in tonight with the rain pressing against the windows, tap like or subscribe before the quiet wraps tighter around you. It's past midnight, 12:37 a.m., and you're in a small rental on the edge of nowhere, where the streetlights fade into shadows and the neighbors are houses you glimpse only in daylight. The wind carries the sharp scent of wet wood and damp earth, the kind of cold that slips beneath your skin and lingers in your bones. You stand near the back gate, the porch light above flickering weakly, casting a thin circle of yellow over the soaked gravel path. The air tastes like rain and cold metal. Each breath pulls the night deeper in around you. The rain drums a soft rhythm on the porch roof, steady, persistent, like a heartbeat you can't quite follow. Your eyes catch movement. A shape, just beyond the pool of light, near the rusted gate that squeaks softly whenever the breeze stirs it. A figure, still and silent, cloaked in shadow. Dark clothes blending into the night, unlit face turned away, unreadable. You blink, steadying your breath, and when you blink again, the figure is gone, vanished into the blackening night. The chill rises, quiet and creeping. You reach slowly into your pocket for the flashlight, fingers trembling lightly in the damp cold. The beam cuts through the dark in a narrow sweep but finds nothing but wet leaves, a lone crow perched on a fence post, and the faint outline of sneakers pressed into the soft, muddy earth. You step back toward the house, the wooden boards whispering under your feet, feeling the solidity of the lock slide home as you close the door behind you. Inside, the warm glow of the living room wraps you in uneasy comfort, but the shadows lingering just past the window remind you of what waits outside. Your phone glows with the time, 12:39 a.m., and you flick through the screen, trying to find signal. Hammering rain masks the faint creak of the back door's latch, just a soft pop, like the smallest invitation brushed against the night's hushed breath. You pull the blinds tighter, the fabric thick and heavy between you and the dark. The rain presses harder now, drumming on the roof and windows in a relentless tattoo. Your heartbeat matches its pace. You wonder how many nights like this slip past unnoticed. How many figures watch from shadows cast by flickering street lamps in the edges of memory. When the world is so quiet and the dark feels full, who chooses to stay silent? And what stories do we miss, hidden beneath the rain and whispered only to the night? If you're here tonight, rain drumming steadily against the window, maybe tap like or subscribe before the night pulls you deeper in. Wherever you are, whatever hour has folded over the world, it's past midnight, 12:57 a.m., and the air feels heavy with moisture and something unspoken. You're in a rental house framed by trees and shadows, far enough from neighbors that the silence outside presses thick against the walls. You stand by the side window, fingers tracing faint streaks, left by rain sliding slow across the glass. The scent of wet earth rides in with the cold breeze slipping through tiny cracks in the frame. Damp wood and pine, sharp and alive. Your breath creates a small fog that quickly fades, leaving you alone with the steady tapping of rain and the distant murmur of thunder rolling low beneath the dark sky. Outside, just beyond the faint glow of the street lamp, a solitary light flickers far down the wet, empty road, the last glimmer of a passing car or the tentative beam of a lone bike's headlamp. It pulses briefly, then fades, swallowed again by the now thickening fog and rain. The house is quiet, save for the faint creak of old floorboards and the hum of the heater struggling to fend off the damp chill. You move slowly away from the window, boots soft against the hardwood, feeling the cold seep through your socks. Your hand brushes the locked back door, metal cold beneath your fingers, deadbolt secure, the chain locked tight with practiced care. A sudden noise snaps your attention, a soft thud from the side porch, muted under the rain's steady drum. You tilt your head, listening. More than wet leaves, more than settling wood. Something deliberate. You lean down, eyes narrowing through the dim light, as your gaze shifts toward the porch steps slick with rain. Footprints. Dark, muddied footprints pressing unnatural shapes into the wood. Wet trails leading from the edge of the backyard toward the locked door where you stand. No voice, no knock. Just the marks left behind, a silent signature in the night. Your breath catches, and you feel a tight knot twist in your gut. The rain's tempo quickens, striking harder, the thunder folding closer, echoing in the hollow space between your ribs. Your fingers brush your phone, screen glowing dimly. 12:58 a.m. No messages, no signal. You consider calling, but the loneliness of this stretch of land presses close. No one's nearby to rush to help, the roads empty and distant. The house holds its breath, shadows pooling thick and still. You step back from the door, locking it again with slow precision, the soft clicks hollow and final. Outside, rain pulls rivers down the glass, distant light blinking once more. A final pulse before the night swallows it whole. And you wonder as the dark holds you in its silent sway. When the last light fades and all that's left is rain and shadow, what choices linger in the spaces we cannot see? How long before the quiet answers back? Before we settle in, maybe tap like or subscribe if you're listening from a place where the rain is tapping steady, where the night feels alive with sound and shadow. Wherever you are and whatever time has carried you here, lean in with me. It's 1:52 a.m., and the rain falls in a soft, endless curtain outside this small house on the edge of town. The air is cool, with just a hint of wet wood and earth mixing faintly through the open window you closed a moment ago. You feel it, the crisp dampness settling on your skin, a chill you didn't expect to catch after a day inside. You step down the narrow hallway, the floorboards groaning gently under your weight, like quiet moans from the house itself. The soft drip of rain slows and picks up rhythm, a distant melody keeping time with your pulse. It's the kind of night where every sound, small creak, faint whistle of wind through a loose shutter, feels amplified, magnified beyond its usual weight. Up ahead, a flicker of light catches your eye from the attic staircase. The old attic door stands cracked, just enough for the narrow beam from a single exposed bulb to spill out, blinking sporadically like a faulty heartbeat against the aged wood walls. You pause, breath caught in your chest. That light wasn't on a moment ago. You know you turned it off before bed. Stepping closer, your shoes make soft pattering sounds on the hardwood as you approach the stairs. The scent grows richer here, musty, dry dust, mixed with the faint sharpness of old paper and forgotten fabric. Through the gap in the door, you glimpse the bulb's erratic glow, shadows crawling in time with each flicker. You reach out and touch the door's edge. It's cool and rough under your fingertips, paint chipped at the corner, worn from years of use. Your palm lingers, steadying yourself before pulling the door open slowly. It creaks, a reluctant sound that fills the silence. Then the door swings wide enough for you to peer inside. The attic is narrow, sloping, wooden beams crisscrossing the low ceiling. Dust particles hang suspended in the light, catching briefly before settling. The bulb overhead flickers again, then holds steady. You step inside cautiously, the floor creaking beneath you as your eyes adjust to the dim, yellow halo. Crates and forgotten boxes lean haphazardly against the walls, the smell of old fabric and faint decay woven tightly, with the dampness still seeping in from this old place. You listen. The rain's steady tap on the roof continues as a persistent soundtrack. Then suddenly, from somewhere inside the attic, comes a very faint sound, a soft, almost inaudible scrape, like something brushing lightly against wood. Your heart sharpens. You freeze. The quiet hum of the bulb, the rain on the roof, and then that tiny sound again. Closer this time, maybe inches from where you stand. You reach for your phone in your pocket, fingers trembling slightly, feeling the cold glass as you check the time in the battery. 3:17 a.m. No signal. You set it down carefully, eyes scanning back toward the far corner of the attic, where shadows gather thickest. The flicker returns, a slow, uneven pulse in the light above. You think you see movement just beyond the crates, a flutter of something shifting out of sight. The hairs at the back of your neck rise, and that old familiar tension coils softly in your chest. You could step forward, investigate further, or you could leave the attic, close the door, lock it tight behind you, and retreat to the safety of the lit rooms below. The rain keeps falling, steady and unyielding, like the passage of time itself, and in the quiet, flickering light of a forgotten attic, You wonder, how long does the mind hold on to its grip between what is sensed and what is imagined? When the seconds stretch thin, like the shadows here, how do you measure the boundary between a quiet house and a restless one? Maybe tap like or subscribe if you've settled in on a rainy night like this. Somewhere quiet, where the sound of water sets the mood just right. Where are you right now, and what hour has led you to listen this late? It's 2:03 a.m., and outside the rain slips slowly down the window pane beside you. The air is thick with that cold wetness you can almost taste. You feel the chill settle against your skin like a gentle brush, mixing with the faint scent of damp wood and earth drifting inside from the cracked open window. You move across the room toward the far wall, where the old floorboards groan under your feet. The house feels quieter now. Even the rain sounds softer, as though holding its breath. You're drawn to a particular spot near the baseboard, where the wood looks slightly warped and darker, almost like it's soaked through. The faint odor of mustiness curls in the air there, sharp and unsettling. You bend down, fingertips brushing over the creaking planks, cold and rough beneath your touch, and for a moment you hear it. A subtle shift, a slight scrape coming from somewhere beneath the floor. You straighten up, heart picking up pace, and listen again. Silence. Just the rain tapping faintly against the side window, the occasional rustle of leaves blown by the breeze. But then, almost imperceptibly, the sound repeats, quieter now but deliberate. A slow scuttle, a whisper of movement hidden in the shadows underfoot. You step back and glance around the dim room, eyes catching the soft glow of the hallway light, filtering through the doorway. The cozy warmth contrasts the creeping cold climbing your spine. You approach the floor, fingers searching for any loose board or hidden crevice. Your hand finds a narrow crack between two planks. It feels just slightly open, maybe big enough for something small to slip through. The damp chill intensifies as a gust pushes through the cracked window, and the scent of wet leaves sharpens. Outside, beyond the porch, a shadow flickers at the edge of the yard. Just a glimpse, nothing you can quite catch as it fades into the darkness. The rain's rhythm swells briefly, a muted crash on the roof, followed by that hushed stillness that presses close. You glance at your phone. No signal. Battery low. A quiet tension coils tighter in your chest. You're alone here, in this house where the floors might hide secrets, and the night seems to fold inward, closing off familiar shapes into uncertain ones. You lock the door again, slow and methodical, but the thought lingers. What moves beneath the floorboards when the house settles, or when it doesn't? The night ticks on, rain tapping, shadows pulsing with unseen weight. How long can you listen to silence before it starts to answer back? And when everything beneath your feet shifts just out of sight, how do you know if what's hidden is waiting or watching? Before we begin, if you haven't yet, go ahead and tap like or subscribe, especially if you're cozy somewhere with a window and the steady sound of rain outside. Wherever you are, whatever time it is, there's something about wet nights that pulls you in. Where are you listening right now? What hour is it? And what brought you here? Tonight, it's 2:56 a.m., and the rain has been falling steadily, a constant whisper against the roof of this small rented house on the edge of a quiet neighborhood. You're in the living room, the faint aroma of damp earth drifting in through a slightly open window. The air is cool and smelled slightly metallic, mixed with the comfortable scent of old wood and linen. Your fingers reach out, brushing the worn fabric of the armchair beside you, feeling the soft curve of the cushion and the lingering warmth of your own body. Outside, the rain taps gently against the side window, a light drumming that seems to both soothe and tighten the silence inside the room. Something draws your gaze toward the back porch. It's dimly lit by a single porch light, yellow and flickering in the rainy night, a tired sentinel standing guard over the empty wooden boards. Your heart tightens a little as your eyes move downward, catching something just past the threshold. There, muddy footprints rest stark against the soaked wood, darker and slick with moisture than the rest of the porch. The shape of a shoe, pressed carefully and somehow deliberately, leading from the side yard to the back door. You didn't see or hear anyone arrive. The rain continues, a steady patter masking all but the sharpest sounds. You stand, the floor creaking softly beneath your feet, and walk toward that door. Each step feels loud in the quiet house, your breath steady but shallow. You pause at the door, hand reaching out to test the handle. It's cool, slick with water from the drip of your dripping hair earlier. You check the lock, deadbolt and chain, both firmly engaged, the metal cold and reassuring beneath your fingers. Your foot brushes the floor beneath the door, and you notice another faint trace of mud, like a smear, as if someone shifted their weight there before retreating. You glance through the peephole, eyes narrowing against the dim light. Outside, the rain mutes everything into swirls and shadows. No figure stands watching. No movement betrays a presence. Just the steady fall of rain, punctuated by the slow trickle of water running off the porch roof. You step back into the room, locking the door again with extra care. The house settles with a soft groan, wooden beams shifting quietly. Your pulse rounds in your ears, the sound strangely loud. You rub your arms, the cool air clinging to your skin where the dampness lingers. Your eyes keep flickering toward the porch window, tracing those prints burned into the woodboards. How long have those footprints been there? How many rainy nights before yours have been marked like this? Each step a silent signature left behind by someone who came too close. And when the rain erases the wet traces, what remains beneath, waiting to be noticed? Before you dive deeper into the night with me, maybe hit like or subscribe if the rain around you is steady and the quiet feels a little heavier than usual. Where are you listening from? What hour has pulled you into this slow, steady moment? It's just past 4 a.m., and outside, the rain drips in long, rhythmic streaks down the cracked window pane next to you. Cool mist pressing through the slight gap you'd left open earlier. The air smells damp. Wet earth mixing with the faint aroma of old wood creaking softly in the dark house. You stand in the dim kitchen, shoes silent on the cold tiled floor. The house is small, rented for the weekend, nestled on the edge of a town too quiet to see much beyond porch lights and shadowed yards. The rain's patter taps against the siding outside, steady and persistent, a lullaby or something more insistent. You notice an uneasy tightness in your chest as you move toward the hallway. Something feels off. Maybe it's the way the house breathes in the night, or the unfamiliarity of this space that should be safe. Your steps carry you toward the basement door, a plain wooden panel at the foot of the stairs, painted the same dull white as the walls. You reach out and touch the knob, chilled by the humidity lingering in the air. When you turn it, the latch moves easily. The door creaks open, slipping from its hinges slightly on rusted nails, revealing the narrow descent into shadow. You weren't expecting it to be unlocked. You pause, gaze flicking over the dark stairwell where the weak glow of the hall light barely penetrates. The damp smell is stronger here now, heavier, earthy, mixed with a faint metallic tang like old pipes left to rust. You run your fingers along the doorframe, feeling the slick dampness settle into the wood. Beneath your feet, the floor tiles seem colder, and behind you, the distant hum of the refrigerator thrums softly. The silence descends quickly, broken only by the hollow drip of water echoing somewhere deep below. You eye the stairs, narrow and worn, the wood groaning under imagined weight. The handrail is faintly sticky with dust and something just out of place. You debate, lighting your phone's flashlight, The beam would cut swaths into the darkness, but might also draw eyes you don't want to meet. You hesitate, hand lingering near your pocket where the phone nestles quietly. Footsteps, soft but distinct, echo faintly downward. Not your own. Your breath freezes for a beat, heart flickering between disbelief and focus. You listen hard. Another drip. Then silence, thick enough to press against your skin. The rain continues relentlessly outside. A quiet lull that contrasts with the tension curling inside you. You check the locks on the kitchen and front doors, fingers tracing the cold metal and making sure they're secure, deadbolt tight, chain engaged. The house's heartbeat feels both calm and guarded at once. You step back from the basement, closing the door slowly. The latch clicks softly, sealing the darkness inside. For a moment you stand with your hand on the handle, sensing the weight beneath the floorboards, wondering what stories hide in these quiet spaces we often ignore. How many times has a door like this been left unlocked, the boundary blurred between safety and something watching just beyond sight? When the rain traces rivers down the glass, and silence stretches, folding over all the small creaks and footsteps, how do you measure the space between what's real and what your mind fills in? And in that measured breath, are you guarding the house, or is it guarding you? If you're here in the quiet dark with steady rain outside, thanks for stopping by. Maybe press like or subscribe if the patter on your roof feels steady, or if the night is just waking you up. Wherever you are, I wonder what time holds you tonight. It's 3:24 a.m., and you're sitting near the living room window of that old rental house, the one tucked against the edge of town where streetlights start to scatter and fade. You can smell the rain, fresh, wet soil and cold wood rolling through the cracks around the window frame. The air is cool against your skin, damp with the promise of a longer storm tightening its grip out there. The window glass is slick, a dim blur of silver drops, tracing slow paths down into the waiting darkness beyond. Your fingers brush the frame, chilled metal that sends a sharp edge through your warmth. The street lamp outside hums quietly, a rusty yellow glow haloed in mist. Your eyes follow the light as it cuts through the drizzle, slowly shifting, as if chasing something invisible across the wet asphalt. Suddenly there's a faint glow, not steady, but slow and moving. Headlights, two pale orbs pushing through the dense fog creeping along the road. The beams hover low, trembling slightly in the fog like distant eyes searching. No sound yet, only that steady rain and your own breathing filling the room. Your heart picks up pace as the lights inch closer, barely penetrating the soft gray veil shrouding the road. Through the fog, the silhouette of a car emerges, old, with darkened windows and no visible movement inside. No taillights trail behind it. As it rolls slowly past the house, tires hissing softly on wet pavement, you notice its headlights aren't quite right. Faint flickers, dimming and brightening like a faulty bulb struggling to stay alight. You lean in closer to the window, eyes narrowing, the chill kissing your neck through your shirt collar. The headlights seem to pause briefly right outside your fence, shining into the shadowed yard before moving on slowly down the road. You squint for a license plate or any details, but the fog tears the scene apart into shifting fragments. No sounds come from the car, no engine roar or door slam, just the heartbeat of rain on pavement and the rhythmic blink of headlights fading into distance. You pull back, breath shallow, feeling the cool draft mixing with a slow pulse of unease threading through your skin. The room feels too quiet now, the steady hum of your heater masking the silence outside. The street lamp flickers, buzzing faintly, casting brief shadows that twitch against the wet ground. Your gaze drops to the back door, locked earlier this evening, latches all secured, and you wonder how many times something moves just beyond the edge of shapeliness in the dark. The rain's rhythm continues, steady, unyielding, as if nothing has shifted at all, but you feel it. The slow tightening between watchfulness and the unknown. The fragile line where ordinary nights stretch into unspoken mysteries. Sometimes you wonder if what you see in the fog is really just light breaking through moisture, or if the night is watching too, waiting for the moment when shadows become stories you can't quite forget. If you're settling in with the rain outside and the quiet pressing close, thanks for joining me tonight. Wherever you are, whatever time it is, maybe tap like or subscribe if the night feels a little heavier, a little slower where you are. It's 3:49 a.m. and you're standing by the window of a rented house on the outskirts of a small town, the kind of place where streetlights are few and far between, and the dark feels thick and almost alive. The rain is steady. Soft taps, then gentle drumming as it slides down the roof and onto the porch below. You breathe it in, that wet, earthy smell, mixing with the cool air seeping through the cracked window. Your skin tingles, a chill that isn't just the temperature, but something in the weight of the damp night settling into your bones. Your eyes drift out, past the dim porch light, out into the road, lined with slick leaves and puddles. Then headlights, soft and low, cutting through the mist that clings to the street like a veil. They move slowly, rolling forward without the blur or glare of speed, the beams wavering in and out, as if the driver is uncertain, or the bulbs flicker from where. You watch as the headlights draw near, the shape of an old car barely discerning through the fog. There's no sound but the rain on the metal roof, and the subtle hiss of tires on wet asphalt. The car slows to a ghostly crawl, crossing in front of the faded porch light, windows reflecting the yellow glow and dark shadows beyond. You catch a glimpse inside, the empty driver's seat, the passenger side dark and still, no motion, no sign of breath or figure, just that slowly moving shell, haunting and silent in the rain. The car pauses, just long enough for you to wonder why, then continues down the road, lights flickering as it fades away into the mist. You pull back from the window, the quiet of your room pressing in suddenly. The whir of the heater clicks on, filling the space with low warmth, but cannot ease the ripple of unease threading through you. You glance toward the back door, locked tight an hour ago, the chain secure, but feel the shifting tension of that slow-moving shadow just beyond sight. You reach for your phone, thumb passing over the screen, eyes flicking to the time and the weak signal bars. You think about calling, to hear another voice, to break the emptiness. But what would you say? That at 3:49 a.m., a silent car moved like a phantom along a quiet street, its passenger seat empty, but somehow full of watching? The rain continues, drawing narrow rivers down the glass. The night holds its breath, a fragile, waiting stillness between moments. And you wonder, as the headlights disappear into the fog, in the space between seeing and knowing, what else waits quietly beside us, unseen but somehow present?